And I'm delighted to be here today, and I'm really looking forward to sharing with you some of my insights and tips on how you can create and maintain, because that's the important word here, a positive mindset during your job search, but also to equip you with some tools that you can use more generally in your life and your career. And I'm really excited because I know you will learn so much from what I present today. Even if it's just one thing, that will be perfect. So the big question, what is a mindset? So we hear this phrase being thrown around, but what does it actually mean? So a mindset is the established set of attitudes that we hold as an individual. It is the way we think, act, and feel about the world and the way we approach life. It has less to do with what we do in the situations we experience and more to do with how we face and react to them. So one of my favorite quotes here, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. So I'm going to say that again. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it.
We're still on the first slide on this screen.
Oh.
You might click present now or something along those lines. I don't use PowerPoint.
That's frustrating. So you're still on the first slide?
Yeah. Someone said turn on slideshow mode. So
I am in slideshow mode. Yeah.
Maybe it's just not worked. Maybe just go back and go through it manually then and click on each one. Maybe that'll work.
Okay. Can you all see that one?
We can see this. Yeah.
Can
so
you see that?
Yes, perfect. So yeah, we'll just have to, we'll muddle through.
The old-fashioned way. Oh, right, breathe. So yeah, what is a mindset? We've done that one. And then life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Now, this is really important because the good thing here is we all have a choice. And this is really exciting. We all have the power to choose how we think, how we show up, and what actions we take. Hooray! We are the creators of our own experience. And again, this is another really powerful statement. We are the creators of our own experience. And I say this all the time to myself, to other people, to clients, on social media, to anyone who will listen, because it's really powerful and true. So, what does a positive mindset even look like? So first of all, it's about self-belief. Knowing that you are committed and determined to achieve your goals, or with this topic in mind, to get that job. It's about persevering, acknowledging that there will be challenges for everybody. No one can escape the challenges. There will be obstacles and adversity even, but pursuing and carrying on no matter what. That's the key here. And knowing and accepting that this is part of the journey, right? And more importantly, this is where your personal growth happens. So in a nutshell, a positive mindset involves making the most out of any situation, even a potentially bad situation, and looking to see not only the best in those around you, but also the best in yourself. Right, I'd love to invite you into use your imagination here and step into a little exercise. I'd like you to imagine that you are the driver of a bus. The bus symbolizes your mind, and your thoughts are represented by passengers. On your journey, some passengers sit quietly, some thank you, some engage with you in a positive manner, while others make critical and distracting comments or shout directions as you drive. Now, you can choose how you react to the passengers, just as you can decide how to respond to your positive and critical thoughts. You can allow these passengers to shout and chatter noisily while still keeping your attention focused on the journey towards your goal. You can decide at the next stop who can stay on the bus until you continue to the final destination, your goal. As the driver of the bus, you have the power to choose who to listen to, and no matter what, to keep driving to your destination. So thank you for doing that. It's quite an interesting exercise to visualize your thoughts in your mind and how to manage that. And I'd like just to take a moment to maybe jot down what came up for you during that exercise. What were you thinking? What were you imagining? Who are those friendly passengers? Who are those noisy passengers? How did this exercise make you feel? If you want to pop that in the chat, we can look at that later. Anything that popped up for you whilst you were doing that exercise. It's a really interesting one, isn't it? It's a bit of fun as well. Okay, so your job search. Let's look at how a positive mindset impacts your job search. How do you create and maintain a positive approach through this process? And I think maintaining is the vital part here, because we know a job search journey can often be quite tough. And if you are nodding along now, I know this is resonating. I can't see you, but I'm sure there is some nodding going on. And the reality is, a job search does use a lot of emotional energy and time. And look, that is okay, because remember, it is the same for everybody. I think sometimes people worry that it's all consuming and they're stuck in it and they feel really alone, but you're not alone. It's the same process for everybody. Of course, there are exceptions, but on the whole, everybody's on a very similar journey with their job search. So what can you do? I'm going to share 3 easy ways to set you up for success. And some of these you can use in other areas of your life. So number 1, be aware of your self-talk. Where your attention goes, energy flows. Where your attention goes, energy flows. And did you know that you are talking to your subconscious all the time? Your subconscious is always listening. Whatever you are telling yourself, your subconscious will consume this information and begin to accept it as your reality. So if you tell yourself, oh, I'm so nervous, I'm going to waffle in this interview, or I never get to the final stage, your subconscious will hear this and believe you, and then it will set out to make it true. But again, there's good news here, guys, because it brings us back to what I was saying earlier, that you have the power. You can absolutely make your self-talk work for you. So what can you do? You can create statements based on what you want the outcome to be. You can actually start to change the language of your mind. So let's think of some statements. Before you start your job search, you could say something like, this process is going to be straightforward and easy. Or, I have so many amazing skills that I will find that ideal job quickly. Or, I am going to see opportunities all around me. Or you could say, before an interview, for example, I'm going to nail this interview. I will speak concisely and with authority. The people I meet will warm to me and the conversation will flow easily. I have everything I need to perform at my best during this interview. So you get the idea. And the key thing here is, of course, I've written those statements, but it's all about finding the language that works for you, that you can relate to. And the more you say these statements, the more they will work for you. You can't just say them once. It's not magic. No magic wands, unfortunately, no magic pills. And I wish there was, because I'd be a multimillionaire. So I'd love to invite you now to take a moment to write down a statement that you need to hear, that is going to work for you. And if you feel brave enough, pop it in the chat. What is a statement, a positive statement, that you need to hear right now, or that you know would work for you ahead of your next interview, or in anything you're doing in your career or life? We can look at those at the end. So number 2 is the mental rehearsal, using your powerful imagination. So what on earth am I talking about? What is a mental rehearsal? A mental rehearsal is a type of visualization technique using all your senses. It is a very simple yet powerful tool. And you can easily implement this to visualize success for yourself. This is something that I often lead clients through in a kind of long process through relaxation and hypnosis, but you can do it for yourself as well. I've also seen this technique referred to as brain sculpturing, but I always think that sounds a bit freaky. So this is a technique that top athletes use, performers, and they use it before their big events. And it's important to point out that this activity is not just visualizing, but using all the senses. So what you see, hear, feel, taste, smell, and touch. So let's think about an athlete who would be going on to do the 100-meter sprint. They'd be thinking about walking out into the stadium, you know, what the air felt like on their skin. You know, they go down to put their hands on the track. Does it feel rubbery? They can hear the crowd. They can see the track ahead of them. They're visualizing themselves, you know, starting the race, running the race, finishing the race, connecting with all those senses. So again, what we're doing here is imagining the event before it happens and imagining it going exactly the way you want it to. So in this case, let's say an interview, but in theory, it could be anything, right? It could be public speaking or presentations, other things that people struggle with. So there are 4 main sections of the mental rehearsal, and I'm going to run it through in a very simple way. And let's use the interview as an example. Also, my dog is going crazy behind this door, by the way, so if you can hear that, apologies. So number 1, setting yourself up. So this is about grounding yourself into the present moment. So finding somewhere quiet, taking a few deep breaths, slowing everything down, closing your eyes and relaxing. And number 2, you'd want to then start to visualize the scene. So that could be getting ready for the interview, picking an outfit that made you feel confident, checking your notes on your CV, getting to the big event. I mean, that could be face to face, it could be behind your computer, whatever that might be for you. So 3, it is now about using that imagination. So I want you to really tap into that imagination to envision your ideal outcome. And ask yourself the question, what does success in an interview look like for you? Give yourself permission to let go of perfection. That's really important here, because we're not imagining a perfect interview. We're imagining it going as best as it can, but we want to be open to challenges. But the important thing here is to note that you're able to manage and move through them easily. Just like me trying to set up this presentation earlier, imagining myself being a perfect presentation, but I was able to get through that challenge at the beginning. Perfect example. Lastly, number 4, it's about feeling the afterglow of succeeding and what that looks like for you after a brilliant interview. And it's about settling into that feeling of accomplishment and seek out the emotion that you would attach to this experience. There's a lovely quote here that I found in the Psychology Dictionary. Adapting one's behavior by mental rehearsal allows individuals to cope with those situations better. And that's what we all want, right? And look, I'm going to give you a bit of science here in case some of you are thinking, whoa, this is all like made up. Here's the science to back it up. A key reason that the mental rehearsal works is that memory and imagination use the same neurological circuits. So neurologically, your body can't tell the difference between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. So this means when you use your visualization and the mental rehearsal, your brain is being activated in a very similar way as if you were actually doing the event. So the idea is you go through this a few times and your brain starts to become so familiar with what you're imagining and visioning that when you are in the actual situation of the interview, you are more likely to get that desired outcome. Okay, so let's take a moment here to reflect again. What would your mental rehearsal look like? What would you be seeing, hearing, feeling, touching, tasting? What does your visualization need to include to set you up for success? So again, have a think about that. What would you need to include to set you up for success? Is that to slow down as you're speaking? Is it to be concise in your answers? Is it to be confident and in your presentation? Whatever it might be, it's always going to be really bespoke. What does your visualization need to include to set you up for success? And again, the mental rehearsal is really, really powerful. And when I lead my clients through it, because it's a longer process and I'm the one leading them through it, they can focus more on the relaxation. It can be super powerful. Okay, thank you everyone so far. I hope you're still there. So number 3, focus on what goes well. And this is the basics of positive psychology. I'm sure some of you might know about this. Bringing our attention to what goes well. And I've seen it so many times when individuals come out of an interview and they immediately focus on what went wrong, where they felt uncomfortable, what questions were challenging, a hiccup in their presentation, they thought one of the interviewers didn't like them. And look, let's get real. This is only going to feed doom and gloom. it is not helpful. So what I always say to people is, look, it's really useful after an interview to find some time to reflect positively, asking yourself questions like, what went well? What was the best part of the interview? Where did I shine? What was the main challenge that I overcame? And this connects back to what I said earlier about where your attention goes, energy flows. So where your attention goes, energy flows. The more you look at what went well, the more you will see it. You're training your brain here. And obviously, this is going to give you a positive boost. And then once you're in this positive frame of mind, you can then investigate the learning areas. And note how I say learning areas, not weaknesses or what went wrong. We're talking learning areas, okay? And then you're more likely to be kinder to yourself when you look at these after what went well. So again, some questions could be, what did I learn? What could I improve on? What could I do better next time? And we're always asking ourselves questions from a compassionate point of view. And look, the truth bomb here is that no interview is perfect for anybody. But by focusing on the good parts first, you will always feel much better about yourself and set yourself up for success in your next action. And another little truth bomb is, if you focus on the bad, guess what? You're going to experience more of it. And if you focus on the good, more good will come into your life. So again, I'd love to reflect here. Take a moment. How could this approach help you in your next interview? Or have you had an interview recently that you could reflect on? And again, we're talking compassion here. How could a more compassionate approach to yourself make a difference? And something else that I wanted to share was that in all my experience of recruitment and coaching, what I've noticed is that often when you performed really well in an interview, you've usually been stretched with your thinking, you've been pushed to find answers, and you've maybe felt uncomfortable in this process. But then you tell yourself afterwards the interview went badly because you felt uncomfortable. And that is what you attach to the whole experience, the feeling of being uncomfortable. But your feelings don't reflect your performance. Something to remember. Okay. I'd also like to point out how other daily activities can help with creating and maintaining a positive mindset during your job search. And look, this is a whole nother presentation, so I'm just going to touch on it very lightly. Things like practicing gratitude, investing in self-care, making sure you eat, drink, and sleep well, focusing on what you can control. All these things, even if they're just tiny tweaks, can have a huge impact. But look, again, there is no right or wrong. So do what works for you. It's all about you and what's unique for you and your needs. And again, with anything new, Rome wasn't built in a day. So start small. If you are going to try something new, set yourself up for success. And it could be something simple like going to bed 5 minutes earlier a couple of days a week. It could be drinking 1 glass of water extra a day. It could be listening to a 1-minute meditation. The easier it is, the more likely you will follow through and succeed. And this again will add to your positive mindset as you achieve new things. So finally, I wanted to make clear that you are not defined by your job search. Okay, although it can feel intense and all-consuming when you're in it, remember it is just a process that is separate from who you are. So putting distance, a gap or space between the process and you can be a game changer. Just imagine that space. Think of yourself with these two islands. You're one island, the other island is the job search, and there's loads of sea between you. Just separating yourself can be really powerful. And a positive mindset will also help you come from a place of abundance, one of my favorite words. And when you're coming from a place of abundance, it's going to empower you to choose the right job for you, not just any job, the perfect job for you. And finally, you are amazing and unique. There is no one else in the world like you. Every single one of you has something awesome to offer that can never be replicated. So I just wanted to finish that telling you how amazing you are. So thank you so much. Thanks for your patience at the beginning. And I'd love to know what your biggest insight was. If you can pop that in the chat, we can look at that. What is the biggest thing that was an aha moment for you from my presentation today? And I'm now looking forward to answering your questions.
That was fantastic. That was absolutely incredible. Yeah, I mean, we've got tons and tons of comments. Use the ask a question feature down below if you've got any questions. It's much easier for us to track. Super powerful. How did you come up with this sort of this talk? Is it something you've developed over a long time, or?
It's just kind of the stuff that I do with clients, because I find that I do a mixture of kind of mindset, holistic and practical, but that combination has a massive impact. And it's stuff that I'm fascinated by, stuff that I've learned through the positive psychology, the hypnosis, the coaching, the well-being. You know, how we do one thing, Neil, is how we do everything. Nothing is isolated. So we need to work on everything as a whole to kind of get the results that we want.
Fantastic. And yeah, what was the last question that you asked for people to put something?
Oh yes, I'd just love to know what people's biggest takeaway was, what their biggest insight was during their presentation.
Fantastic. And we'll go to some questions as well while we wait for. You have a look through the comments while we're doing this as well, Penny. There's some fantastic stuff in there. Love the bus and its passengers. Fantastic advice. People talk to your point, sort of towards the beginning when you ask people, you know, what they think about themselves. You know, Wendy saying, "I deserve this." Brian saying, "I am good enough." Gabriella. Sorry.
Oh, so wonderful. Keep reading them. That's lovely to hear.
Yeah. So, you know, Brian saying, "I am good enough." Gabriella saying, "I bring value to any company I would join." Philippa saying, "I can do this." You know, there's some, you just really, we've got another one here. "I'm capable of anything when I put my mind to it." "I'm perfect for this company and role" by Tracy. And some great questions as well. So we'll jump onto that if that's okay, and then we'll come back to the comments at the end. I was wondering if and how you can take the passengers off the bus and stop the negative thoughts. That came through from Tracy.
Yeah, so I think towards the end of that, I do say when you get to the next stop, you can choose who has to get off the bus. So again, it's all about giving you the power to choose. So yes, the thoughts are in there. We've all got positive and critical thoughts. When you imagine it as the bus, it gives you the control because you're the driver. So you can choose to listen, or you can choose to let passengers get off. So again, it just empowers you a bit more about who to listen to. But the whole point of the bus is that no matter what happens, you still get to your destination.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got some people here saying, Alicia saying, "I was inspired that our feelings don't reflect our performance. Feeling negative after interviews doesn't mean it was bad. Feeling positive doesn't necessarily mean it went well." I think that's
totally. And when I worked in recruitment, we always used to, when someone said the interview went really well, we sometimes used to panic. We're like, "Oh no,
yeah,
what's happened?" And because sometimes if it was too easy, they thought it went well. And I don't want to put people off if they do think that it's gone well, but sometimes We just found it quite interesting that when people had thought it had gone really badly, they actually normally had been just pushed and stretched and felt uncomfortable, and they'd done a really good job. And then normally they got really positive feedback. And I think it's something to remember in interviews is that people are going to push you. You are going to be stretched, especially the more senior you become.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean if you don't have the right answer or you feel uncomfortable that you haven't actually performed really well. Or it might have been an interview that was just to test you. And they're not necessarily looking for the perfect answer. So again, something to remember.
Yeah, fantastic. We've got Sarah here saying, you're not defined by your job search, so thank you for that. Sometimes it feels like you are. You've taken a weight off my shoulders.
Oh, good. Yeah. And I think to imagine yourself as those islands. And I like that picture because we all want to go on a tropical holiday, don't we? So if we can imagine ourselves as a lovely tropical island, the sea is flowing past, your job search is separate from you, absolutely separate.
Yeah, perfect. We've got Andy here saying the bus analogy was really powerful. Michelle, just because we think it doesn't mean it's real. Just because we think it doesn't mean it's real. I'm assuming that's what Michelle means by that. Tim's main takeaway here was focus on the positive after an interview. It's always too easy to beat yourself up on the one question you might not have nailed.
Exactly. And I think I'm not a neuroscientist, but as I know that a little bit about it, that we are wired to have a negative bias. So our brain will always want to look for things that went wrong, looking for the risk rather than the opportunity, looking for that one question you messed up. And I think once you become aware of that, you can go, oh, okay, let's just flip that round and look at what I did really well. Because even if you had a disastrous interview, or if it felt disastrous, there will always be something that went well, always. And it's about bringing your attention back to that.
Yeah, fantastic. We've got Io here saying, I love the concept of your subconscious believing everything you tell it. So be careful of your self-talk and letting go of perfection. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I think with the subconscious is that it's really, really, really powerful. And it takes control more than you know. And, all the techniques I shared today, I use for myself for this presentation. I told myself it's going to be fun. I'm excited. I'm going to speak concisely. I'm going to enjoy it. I use the same techniques myself that I share with other people. And I'd also use the mental rehearsal technique. If something goes wrong, I'll be able to cope. And yes, something went wrong, but I got through it, right? So it's okay. But if I was focusing on what went wrong, my mind would want to focus on that, right? That the presentation was a bit bumpy at the start because of technical stuff. But no, that was just a tiny part.
Yeah, I think we've got Brian here saying, practicing mindfulness has made a really big difference. Wendy saying gratitude really helps, as does asking in the universe. I love that. So I love that sort of thinking as well. We do have a couple of questions. So we've got to, can we get a copy of the slides? Is the first question by Jenny.
Of course, absolutely.
Fantastic. I'll make sure that I get I send around an email after this to everyone who has been on these sessions so that they can have access and more information. As it stands, all the information for every speaker is on the website. If you want to go look up their details and contact them on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, we'll make sure that will get sent around to people. Next question by Andy. Would you support seeing the job search as a job in itself? We're so much tied up in defining who we are by our jobs. He's not saying that's right, he said. But would you support seeing the job search as a job in itself?
Definitely. I think sometimes people underestimate, and that's why they're sort of more critical of themselves, that, a job search is full time. And actually, some people get so overwhelmed, they think, shall I just quit my job so I can focus on the job search? And that's why I mentioned being compassionate and kind to yourself, that, it's normal to find it's using up emotional energy and time, and it can be intense and overwhelming. So it's about having those clear boundaries. Use that island analogy again, focus your time, but make sure there's time for the job search, there's time for you, there's time for self-care, and there's time for other activities. You're not just job searching 24 hours a day, because that's just I think somebody else talked about job search fatigue, and that's a real thing, and you don't want to fall into that trap. So how can you set some healthy boundaries to make that job search work for you? Even if it does need a lot of time and energy, make sure there's always that buffer and boundary to separate that from you and your life.
Fantastic. Guys, we've got about 10 more minutes on this. So if anyone's got any questions, I can see quite a lot of chat on the side about a few different things. So if anyone's got any specific questions they want to ask, please do fire them away. So I can see, Letitia and Wendy having a chat about, the different ways to answer questions in interviews and all that sort of stuff. So ask the question and we'll get that up on stage and we'll go through it. But a question from me, while we wait for those to come through, from your perspective, when I love the analogy of sort of going through it in your mind before you go through it. When you were talking about that, I thought of the people, have you ever seen people before they do a bobsled run? And so before they do a bobsled run, they have their eyes closed and they do that and they move around and they imagine the course before they go down it. When you were saying that, that's what I was thinking. It was like, going down a bobsled run, knowing which turns you need to take, knowing what dangers may be coming up, and using that as a sort of what in my mind was a great analogy for, great sportsmen do that before they do a really, really fantastic event, right? Why not apply that sort of methodology, that sort of thinking to your search, to your job search, to your life, right?
Absolutely. And it's, and that's exactly what they're doing. That is like the mental rehearsal when they're doing that with their head. And you think about the England rugby team. I don't know the names, I'm afraid, but the kicker, that's probably not even his name, but the guy that kicks it over the H-y thing. My rugby terminology isn't great, but if you watch him, he does a visualization. He looks at the ball. He draws the line with his face, and it looks like he's having sort of, something's not quite right with him when he's doing it. But actually, he's doing that visualization. He's seeing it happen before he's even kicked the ball. He's seeing the success, and it's powerful. So when he goes to kick the ball, his brain already thinks, well, yeah, this is going to go over. So that's probably why it does most of the time.
Yeah, I love that. It's brilliant. So what I've got a question here. What's your top positive self-affirmation?
Oh, wow. I think I'd probably say just to turn that around, one of the biggest limiting beliefs is people think I'm not good enough, whatever that might be. And it comes up with pretty much everybody. So I'd say I am enough. I think that's really powerful to say to yourself, that I am enough. And I think the thing with affirmations is to find the ones that speak to you, because again, it's all about the language that you resonate with. So I could have my top 5, but find the ones that speak to you and your needs, that make you feel positive and empowered. And you can just write your own, or you can Google positive affirmations and then pick the ones that mean something to you. But the more you say them, the more they will start to imprint in your mind. And it's all about the neural pathways in your brain being created. The more you say them, the neural pathway becomes stronger.
Fantastic. We've got a question from Philippa here. How do you know when to listen to your inner voice? Sometimes it's telling you the truth, but you ignore it and it all goes terribly wrong.
I think with the inner voice is to first of all know that even if it's being critical, it's coming from a place of love, because your brain is wired to keep you safe. And really, to keep you safe is to keep you small and hidden and hiding at the back of a cave. But we don't live in caves anymore, but our brain hasn't caught up with us. So actually, whatever your brain is saying to you, it's coming from a place of love. So first of all, I'd say, remember that. And if you're going to listen to the thoughts, sometimes there is a message there. I think that we're always, our body and our mind is always communicating with us. And if you feel a critical thought is actually giving you some help, then listen to it. I think use your intuition a bit to kind of guide you what you need to listen to. And if it's quite a harsh voice, just remember it's coming from a place of love, and that takes the power away.
Fantastic. We've got Tracy here. Just want to say that I've really enjoyed this and will certainly be practicing the positive statements and reflecting on what went well in the interview, rather than kicking myself for what didn't go so well.
Good. That's amazing to hear.
Okay, fantastic. Any more questions? We've got another sort of 5 minutes if anyone wants to ask any final questions before we jump off. It was fantastic though, Penny, honestly. There's so much I'm taking away from that.
Good. What's your number one takeaway then, Neil?
Well, it's that preparation. It's that belief in, like a sportsman would do, going into an event like this. I had none of that preparation. I just said, well, we'll see how it goes, right? I mean, obviously, tons of organization went into this, but it I think it really would, because I was so nervous this morning. You know, I was super nervous before this all started. I'm feeling okay now, and later on it's going to be presumably me being tired. But having that visualization, I think really gets you over that initial sort of 5-10 minutes of being really nervous. Because I find that, and I know a lot of people I coach find that when they go in to do an interview, that first 5-10 minutes, sometimes people just fall apart, right? And it's because, and I do it sometimes, you know, the first 5 minutes that I do a podcast, I can't even speak, right? But it's that sort of anxiety that you get at the beginning of things that can be really, really difficult sometimes. And I think doing that visualization is something that's certainly my biggest takeaway. Yeah.
Good. And I think just to add to that when we do get nervous before something, and I think it's natural to get nervous before anything like this, or presentation or an interview, whatever it is how you label that emotion, because nervousness and excitement have the same bodily function, but it's your mind telling you what to label it as. So as soon as you get nervous, you just tell yourself, I'm excited. So for an interview or presentation, you think you're feeling nervous, your mind goes, I'm nervous, and you say, well, no, I'm excited. And you just change the label, and that has a massive impact on how you're feeling. And I think another thing to add is you just use a bit of breathing. If it's an interview, presentation, whatever it is, just to take a few moments to breathe deeply, and that will calm down your central nervous system and move you from fight or flight into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your more chilled out version of you.
Fantastic. We've got a question here from Tracy. I knew some of these techniques already, but how do I keep them at the forefront of my mind on this roller coaster of job hunting?
I think start small. I think, maybe just write down a couple of the positive statements. Ask yourself, how do I want to feel today? What do I need to do to be the best version of myself? You can't just turn up one day and be like, I've got a positive mindset. It doesn't work like that. It's like, take it really slowly, set yourself up for success by making small changes. And, I'm still working on my mindset, and I've been working on it for 3 or 4 years, and it's just an ongoing journey, and it takes time. So be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. And how can people find you? What's the best way if they want to find you after this session or right now? What's the best way of getting in contact with you, finding what you do, all that good stuff?
So yes, come and find me. LinkedIn is probably where I am 99% of the time. So message me, connect with me. I'll put my email in the chat as well. You can message me directly at penny@pdjcoaching.com. But yeah, I'd say 99% of the time I'm on LinkedIn. You can also find me on Instagram as well.
Fantastic. And if people do come and find you, what's the best way? Is it LinkedIn? Did you say that's the best way of contacting you?
I'd say LinkedIn. I'd say pretty much all of my clients and people I work with and opportunities and networking all comes through LinkedIn. But I am available on Instagram or email if you're not on LinkedIn. And I work with people one-to-one more practically and more holistically. And I use coaching and hypnotherapy. So it just depends what people's needs are. But if it's anything to do with careers or business, then I can absolutely help you.
Fantastic. We have one last question. We've got a few minutes left. And it's, how do you break into a creative mindset after having been in a role that suppressed your creativity for years?
Wow. Okay. I'd probably just say, what is that one thing you can do to explore your creativity? Ask yourself a simple question, and even just set a timer. I set this a lot for people to do. When I ask them a powerful question, set a timer for 60 seconds and just write whatever comes up. What does creativity look like for me? How can I make one step to start exploring my creativity again? 2 simple questions there. Set yourself a timer and you will be amazed at what comes up, because your mind already has the answers. You give it an opportunity to write, you will find something. And it's just that first step is all you need to take.
Fantastic. So someone has just asked about your LinkedIn details. They're all on the website on www.easterjobhunt.com. And also, do you mind just sending that round to the chat afterwards? Because a few people have asked now, Penny, if you could just put that in the chat.
To put what in my chat?
Just your LinkedIn URL.
Yeah, I should know that off the top of my head, shouldn't I? But yeah, I'll find it and pop it in there.
Fantastic. All right. Well, look, thank you so much for the time. It was genuinely really useful for me. And I can just see from the comments, you've really, really touched a lot of people today with what you've been saying. Is there any sort of final thoughts you want to leave people with?
I just like to think that, you know, you can change your mindset and you can start to see things more positively, but it's a choice. And I think that's the powerful part. You do have a choice. So if there's one takeaway you have from today, how can you implement that? Just take one tiny step forward into creating a more positive mindset.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, everyone, please go and follow and check out Penny. And we will move on to Andrew McCaskill next, who's doing video interview training. So thank you so much for your time, Penny. And I'll catch up with you soon, hopefully.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. And thanks for your patience at the beginning. And it was wonderful to be here. And well done, Neil, for setting this all up. You're doing an amazing job.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you so much. I will speak to you soon, Penny.
Okay. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.